I keep seeing Tianan run away and then rejoin. I don't know if you're debugging things or just afraid of me.
Just Zoom on Linux. I think that's enough said.
I had to back out the version. I couldn't go with the latest version.
I think I'm on the latest version.
Yeah, the latest one screwed up the microphone for me too many times.
Yeah, mine frequently will, like, I can't set it to same as system. And I frequently switch between the microphone on my webcam and a headset, and I can't set it to same as system because it just doesn't work at all. Like, it sees all of my Pulse audio inputs, but it won't switch with the system correctly.
All of the 5.10.x versions were breaking for me. I haven't tried the .7 yet. I think I saw that came out just recently, but I've been on 5.9.6 and it seems to be the happiest so far.
I guess I'm on 5.10.6, but I've always had issues. Like, I'll frequently get halfway through a meeting and my microphone will just stop working. And the only way I know is that people start talking over me and I'm like, hey guys, hey, everyone, please stop, listen. And nobody's stopping. Oh, it must be Zoom.
It's always Zoom.
It's always Zoom.
They at least leave the camera on, so they see my lips moving and they just start pointing and laughing at me.
We just need to go back to Uber conference. I've been on hold all day.
So we don't have an agenda today. Or do we?
I'd like to add something to the agenda, if you don't mind.
Please add something to the agenda. I figured if nobody had an agenda, it was just going to be you and me debugging Reg client.
Oh, that would be awesome too. Every time I go back to this mess of projects, I wonder what's changed and what happened and why are things not working like how they used to. So I just want to bring up pull request 919, which is the template for maintainer for adding new maintainers. That's a nice baby.
Nisha is easily distracted.
I am very easily distracted by animals and children.
Yeah, she's a pretty fun kid, kind of like an animal.
Don't distract me. Okay, so I suppose are there any image spec maintainers now? No. Is it something like if I want a pull request to be merged and there are no image spec maintainers to take a look, what do I do? Do I bother them on the mailing list?
Let's see, someone mentioned there's a trick to this a while back. Open container. It does autocomplete. I was going to put a tag in there saying that might ping them all. I'll just throw that in the chat and see what happens. So I'll go ahead and throw a comment out there. We'll see if that gets someone's attention. They were all originally tagged to do a review on it, but I think a lot of people just ignore those.
I know that's why I asked, because yes, GitHub sends a notification asking for a review, but I think that is too spammy.
I think that's the whole reason that Josh is trying to get a couple more of us on here as reviewers. And it's a worthy goal.
Yeah, and it's a good start, right? Let's see where all the hiccups are, and then we can document the hiccups, and then we can, have a discussion with the TOB on their mailing list and say like, okay, so here's a documented dropping the ball thing. What do we do?
Yeah, so I think John is probably still out watching a kid detract from all of his sleep and everything else. And usually two we'll get would be Steve-O and B-Bets, but they're not in right now.
Josh is here, I think.
Josh is here, but we need Steve-O or B-Bets. I was thinking John Johnson
Yeah,
would
yeah.
have been the other one that we would normally see, but he hasn't been around for a while. He's distracted by his own baby.
I'll send a ping to Steve-O. He's pretty good about like if he gets a ping, clicking buttons.
I did the ping for all maintainers in the chat, and I'm hoping that'll ping Steve-O.
Oh, I'll hit him on Slack.
Oh, you're gonna completely pester him.
Sorry.
See, Nisha, you asked the question, we start finding all the ways to start pinging everybody around.
I'm also taking notes. Yeah, I'll be on mute for a little while so you don't hear clackety clack.
I like Josh with the backwards hat routine. Feels very like 90s, kid rapper.
Thanks. I've been working on some verses.
It was a good decade. I really enjoyed that part of my childhood. Sorry, I don't mean to make you gag there while you're trying to take a bite of your food.
I should probably go off camera.
Now I'm going to adjust notes as you're writing them.
Oh, we got an approval from Steve-O. Yeah, it just takes a quick Slack.
Now, if we get them to add a new maintainer, then we don't have to ping them on Slack.
Did y'all reach out to them individually, or like are they in a channel?
Mine I hit with a GitHub ping. If you refresh the issue, you'll see the chat message down there. It just has like an app message and all image spec maintainers.
Okay.
I think Josh was just going to Slack message and DM and Steve-O and being like, hey, stop ignoring us.
All right, I just did the same thing to John. So he sometimes comes out of hibernation.
You might be waking him up and it's like 1 hour of sleep he's getting during the whole day.
But it's for OCI, so I think it's worth it for him.
Fair enough. All right, so anything else we need to hit up today? We didn't really have much of an agenda, so. Free format, we can do like a watch party for the Registries After Dark Part 2. That really looks like a horror video to me.
Did you see it? I haven't seen it yet.
I've only read the description. It terrifies me.
I mean, like, everyone's committing all kinds of crimes.
Don't
Against-
watch it.
Don't watch it.
I've seen
Is it-
enough.
Is it really that terrifying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought reading the description, I was terrified. So yeah. Some things registries just shouldn't be allowed to do.
Don't get me wrong, right? I wrote a C++ compiler in Pascal once, so I've been there with respect to doing interesting things with CPUs. But yeah, no. He was basically promoting to do all kinds of weird things with registries, like abusing them.
Anytime you use a registry as RAM, there's a problem.
Yeah. And this wasn't just any kind of RAM. That's what I'm saying. You'll be like, oh my God, no way. What?
Meanwhile, anyone that's not an OCI person is like, why are you all terrified of this? I don't get it.
Yeah, I also don't get it. I mean, that's why I feel like I need to watch it so I can get it and then be terrified. And
It's a running joke. What are the weird things we can do with the registry space?
What is the most absolute worst thing you could ever possibly want to do with a remote content addressable storage?
Bingo.
And yeah, let's use that to represent RAM. That's a
Well,
good idea.
Steve OX, I think he had some original, pretty cool ideas for using the content addressable stuff, but yeah, this wasn't one of them.
Yeah, it's on my watch list. I caught up this morning with some of the other projects that I wanted to watch. So it's just so many projects, so many videos all at once.
Yeah,
Means I've
Nisha,
got a-
it's basically just in OCI land, for some reason, with some of our APIs, we've always like to consider what are the weird things we can do with it. Like when we did, a SHA API, what kinds of weird SHAs could we make? It's a running, habit.
Yep. Sasha, any thoughts from you on what we've been doing over on the ref type working group? Anything we need to bring up over here? I'm just thinking through the proposal F and whatnot that's going through those discussions.
I can give maybe one conversation that we've been having is the current proposal that is not yet submitted by Docker. That's bringing a lot of conversations, right? So you need to probably get something written up and have people follow the process so that everybody can kind of sign off on it in some way. I think Josh's issue to make sure that the proposal is written up is something we want to push for. It has changed the conversation of how we wanted to do an API and not do an API. And I think it's also bringing up the challenges that many operators don't want to change distribution in any way. That's something maybe for the OCI itself, is it going to be a hesitation in any kind of new long-term vision, or is it something that we understand as status quo and stay with it and make it like Linux ABI where binaries are going to be always compatible? Those kind of things. I think it's more for future, not for the immediate ask. But I think we can comment once Docker has submitted a PR in some form.
Yeah, I'm I don't know. There's been a lot of conversations about this, but I'm wanting them to submit the proposal because I think there's probably, if we want to do API related stuff, there's things we can add that extend this but do not change it at its core. For example, if we want to add a discovery API that could be an optional optimization on top of putting things in the index. Like you could still just get them out of the index, but I think it kind of changes the way that we're looking at this, but it needs to start with a proposal. So
Yeah.
Actually, if you look at the very bottom comment, like I already started thinking about sort of like, yeah, I put this together yesterday. I was like back and forth of whether to just put it up or not, but I'm already like, I'm already like looking at what, what exactly it's saying. It seems like there's special case for signatures and everything else. There's still needing to be some sort of reference annotation. The next page thing is a whole nother conversation, but it's like Jason already pointed out some issues with that. But I'm just thinking about ways in which like this is not going to scale. Like I was talking to Jason, like, what if you have something that's scanning an image every day? Does that mean that you have an index with 365 times number of scans per day? So
Yeah, let's not forget that when you add an annotation, you're going to change the SHA, right? So you have to.
Yeah, and that is a question that's been raised and might be a good one to mention over here, which is that kind of the difference between a couple of proposals that we've been looking at is, do we care about race conditions, and how do we want to solve the race conditions? One way to solve the race conditions is by saying that we're going to push everything in an idempotent way, so that each different manifest out there can't overwrite each other. They're all going to have independent digests, but there's still some way for the registry to link that together on the registry side or by looking at a tag listing. And the other option is to say, no, we're going to keep mutating this index. And if we keep mutating the index that has different values, you keep adding a new entry in there. How do you avoid if someone else changes it? And one of the requests was that we would go back to what was happening over on, I think that was distribution spec. We had a PR sitting out over there for a while for talking about how the not immutable conditional request, how we handle the e-tags. And if we support e-tags and how that would look. There have been concerns on this one that the backing for the registry is not potentially isn't or it potentially is eventually consistent. And so that would be a challenge if you have an eventually consistent backing and you try to do e-tags. That's just not going to work because you don't really know what your backing is at any one point in time. But the comment that came back was saying, well, no, S3 and from AWS, and if I go look up like Minio, that they're even saying as long as you pick the right storage file system, you'll get some immediate consistency. You don't have the eventual consistency concerns over there. So it might be something that registries can implement, but at the same time, it's no guarantee that any registries out there already today does implement. And so we would have race conditions with current registries until they support e-tags.
I have, sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, just really quick. I also need to go at the half hour, but I think like I'm trying to, compared to proposal E, which seemed like we were like going straight in that direction. It seems like the Docker people are less concerned about changes to the registry and more concerned about changes to the schema. And I'm wondering if like the entire filtering and discovery piece, like I don't feel like that is the biggest concern of theirs. So it's more about not changing the types. Do people disagree with that?
I agree with your assessment. And the reason that I would look at it from their side is they're the image originator for a lot of stuff with the official images. There's only be one time they're pushing this and they're not going to mutate ever again after that. And they don't really have the downstream concerns that I think some others of us have.
I guess, like, considering we can figure out this race condition and like the scale of this issue, we could still do a lot of the stuff we were talking about in proposal E, and they could just not implement it. And is that okay? Like, I'm just trying to, like, we had the discovery API for a reason. That's all I have to say. I don't really have a fully formulated thought with there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Nisha.
So I have a thorny question for Sajay. And I wonder, like, because your team was the one that actually did like quite a bit of work around this. What made you decide to go in the direction of integrating all of these features into the registry rather than create some kind of like management layer on top of the registry?
I can maybe describe some history there. If folks know Content Trust Store, the Docker's implementation of Trust was actually done as a different catalog. They actually keep an entire different database, and you have to run it as a different service, and you attach signatures, and it's disconnected from the registry. The problem is that became highly non-portable, which means that you have one set of content that is signed and has a different SHA, and you have the same tags in a different system that's maintained differently. That makes it hard for you to take it from one origin and pass it over, even though there is federation underneath. So the whole idea was that you have one content store. Why not use it to store other types like signatures? Because in the end, you're not trusting the registry to be the source of truth. It's not the trust source. It's only the source of the content. So you still pull it down to the client from the same place. I can maybe give you some perspective from implementing the network lockdown secure registries, which is one of the harder ones that most customers want, right? They don't want you to go out to the internet. They don't want you to go out to some random endpoint and things like that. So
Right.
Opening up every DNS in their environment is really hard. So once they've opened up a set of firewall rules, it becomes easy for them to say, hey, I can acquire other stuff also. And if it's an image, why wouldn't I get the same content or similar content from the image from the same endpoint? So that was one of the motivations why we rallied around making the registry support these things. Does that answer your question? It's more of a historic reasoning more than anything else.
So it answers the question of why you want to store all of the associated content in the same registry. But I'm wondering, like, as far as things on top of that, which is the discovery, the filtering, the content management, I mean, those could have been implemented separately, right? You know the digest of the DAG and you can kind of manage the digest separately.
Yeah, I think the conversation of the working group is to come to agreement where all clients can implement it the same way. Because I personally would love it if Docker, AWS, GCR, Quay, all of us could kind of share the same images with signatures without having to worry about portability and each client and cloud doing their own thing. That's the whole point of this group, right? So we could have implemented it on top, but we felt that distribution API and the image spec were the place where these agreements happen. And so coming to the table and taking that forward was the motivation. Does that make sense? Because even adding a new API on distribution would mean that all cloud providers somehow need to understand the spec and implement it. For example, e-tags, I totally support e-tags, But if the other cloud providers don't support it, then our client tooling won't use it. So it becomes the lowest common denominator for all these APIs either way.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, the counter proposal is that, well, if these kind of features like the filtering and the content management is not something that everyone, like, not something that is commonly used, maybe that shouldn't be in the realm of OCI in the first place. So yes, we can talk about like how to fix race conditions. We can talk about how to get clients to understand nested indexes. Those still seem to be like maintenance of whatever is existing right now. So that doesn't really change developer workflows so much, but the other stuff is all like enhancement features. I mean, we can still pull things by digest. We can still pull blobs. Can't that implementation be like, offloaded to something else?
I think when we get into, shucks, I had a point in start and fade there, but when we get into some of these scenarios where you have a mutating digest, that was a big concern early on. I think they found a way to solve that. So that might not be as big of an issue, but when you have race conditions in there and when you have nested indexes, those are things that aren't easy to solve with the existing environment that's out there today. And so it means you're going to have a change to be able to support this, which means it's not going to run well on existing registries. You're going to start seeing some issues that users are going to complain about.
Yeah, okay.
When I say you're using basically an annotation as an additional reference type, I'm scratching my head. I'm a little nervous. I don't think the annotation is really meant for that.
I feel like they over-focused on that part of their thing. I think they could have easily left that completely out and said, here's just how we're going to do a reference in general, and then come back later on and said, oh, by the way, here's an optimization we want to add using an annotation. That might have been easier to look at, but they're very focused on signatures right now. So they're looking at that optimization really hard.
Yeah, obviously they can use an annotation for any purpose they want. If they want that annotation to have a specific programmatic meaning and to get that approved in the image spec, that's a different thing. Might as well just have a reference.
And this is what Lucky and I have been concerned about, because it goes back to the Kubernetes labels, jacking everything into Kubernetes labels as an example of how it can explode over time, right? So I'm
exploratory makes a ton of sense. Yeah. Then you just have a way. Then you just map it and change the SHA, and you're good, right? Later on, it can be a migration path for the old, the images that were in exploration. Yeah.
And the other thing to keep in mind is we do have the data field that we approved. And so if they're looking to just avoid an extra fetch, you can always take that embedded data in there and just throw it as a data field instead of as an annotation.
No, I've got nothing else.
It's a confusing scenario there, but I'm hoping we're going toward a good situation that's going to work long term when we start throwing a whole bunch of stuff at registries, and short term with whatever the current state of the registries is today across a whole variety of use cases. And I think each of us is coming with our own individual use cases to this one. And so we need to make sure we're finding the solution everybody can work with.
Sounds like you guys are having fun in the work group.
We were halfway down proposal E, and then Docker came and said, oh, by the way, let's go this completely the other direction.
Oh, yeah. Let's just all use annotations instead.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I just wanted to check in with Tianan if he said anything and his mic is still unmute or mute.
I
I
think
haven't-
I'm off mute.
The one Docker representative.
Yeah, it's a stretch to say I can represent Docker on these calls, especially in this discussion. If you want to talk official images, we can talk official images all day long. But the context that's motivating the Docker Inc. discussions on Proposal F, I'm very, very new to. What I can tell you is that it's a UK holiday today and tomorrow, so there's a lot of Docker people who are out today and tomorrow. And US people were out on Monday, so it's like a shortened week from both directions.
This is no work gets done week.
Yeah,
This
This
is
week's a lot.
the opposite is that it is I mean, this is the time when I can actually go look at code and bother Brandon. Something is not working.
I am perfectly fine with being bothered on this stuff.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've poked at Go code. So it's not just the code base, but it is like programming in Go that is like, okay, now I have to get up to speed on that. It's been like 3 months now.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the error you saw with yours, though, the reason it might have failed is, at least in the standard in case, was because I do have a bug that I don't think I released the patch for as a release version. So you just might be a version back and need to get on to the head of the branch, and that'll
I
at least
built
solve the standard in
everything.
version.
I built everything from head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't like pull down binaries. I build things from source. Yay.
Nisha doesn't mess around. Hi there, Wayne. Welcome to the group. We're just pretty much agendaless at this point. So if you've got any talking points you want to bring up, feel free to jump in.
No, I just and I am curious to follow the proposal F for the reference stuff. So that's why I'm joining.
Okay. Yeah, I think the real discussion on that should hopefully happen next Tuesday. Are you on the working group meetings as well?
Let's see. I mean the OSI reference types working group on
Yeah.
Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I looked at the agenda for that, or maybe I didn't even try joining this week.
We
I don't know.
probably,
That's during my normal lunchtime. So
yeah, I think all these meetings are my lunchtime. But yeah, that one, hopefully they'll have a proposal ready by next week. We're pushing them very hard on that.
cool. Are you in a bookstore?
I am not. It looks like I am though, but no, I am not. Green screen does wonders.
Nice.
Cool. Well, if nothing else, Nisha, I'll try to help debug your issue for you, but I think we're all done with agenda stuff.
We can do that on Slack if you want. You don't have to be on cam. Like,
Yep.
works for me. Also, like async is better. Now I can go get something to eat.
Good plan. All right, everyone. Good catching up.
Thanks,
Talk to you all
everyone.
next week.
See you. Bye.
I've been on hold all day. See you, Mike.